All right, and we're back. It is another Neville and Chill, and this time with friends. I am so pleased to be joined tonight by my good friend, Joe Rocca. Hello, Joe.
Josiah, pleasure to be with you. Thanks for the
Yeah,
invitation. Yeah,
yeah,
it's really
absolutely.
amazing.
I'm so glad you're able to come on and join us. I had made a post in my community tab before we went live here, saying that I had asked you, for a while. Actually, we've been talking and doing things for a while, and I've just really been looking forward to the opportunity to have you come on and share some of your insights. And I just want to start just by acknowledging you in general, Joe. I try to tell people, I do my best to tell people and show them appreciation when they've had an impact on me. And Joe, you're one of those people that I'd like to show appreciation to because you have an impact on me. You've been a friend of mine through YouTube for many years now. I think going back to probably day one, you and I were connected through YouTube. You've always been on my videos, leaving comments, and then we connected and developed a bit of a friendship over WhatsApp. And just you've always encouraged me. You've always just like sent me these profound insights that help me click into an expanded understanding of the stuff. And I feel like we're just constantly on the same page. And so I just want to say thank you for your friendship and just everything that you've contributed to my journey over the years. And I'm just glad that we have a chance to invite our YouTube friends to come in and sit in on a little conversation with us tonight.
Yeah, I also want to thank you for your work. It's had a tremendous impact on me. Your videos from day one were just amazing. I think your voice is perfect for Neville's work.
Thank you.
And the way you express yourself, the way you express Neville's work is sometimes frightening because it's even better than the way Neville presents it himself. So like you're potentially, or not potentially, I think you're channeling his spirit. So I'm grateful because we love Neville and we live his work. So I try to do my best to live his work. So
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that I come across your work. And when I did, I still remember the day when I first came across your work. It's like when something profound happens, it sort of hits you.
Mhm.
And I still know where I was. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So the connection was formed right there. And it continues to this day. And it's just only grown. So I appreciate everything
Very
you've done for
good.
my
Yeah.
development.
So Joe, where are you speaking to us from right now?
So I'm in Melbourne, Victoria,
Okay.
Australia. So yeah,
Awesome.
it's morning, 10 o'clock. So
Oh,
I know
more.
it's late.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Evening chill for me here on the East Coast of the United States of America. And Joe, you're joining us from 10 o'clock in the morning down there in Melbourne. That's awesome. I'm checking over at the chat here. I see we have some folks joining us in the chat. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Neville and Chill. I'm so pleased to have all of you here. Elena says, Joe, you are living in the future. That's a good one. Yes. And he's also in Barbados, Selena says. We've got Mike is here and now. Hello, Mike. And we've got Bill with us. Hello, Natasha. Hello, and big love to everyone. Right back at you, Natasha. Thanks for being here. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to keep it light tonight, and we're going to delve into one of my favorite topics, which is success stories. I think everybody loves success stories, and I'm just going to take a minute to give a little bit of an introduction here. So, I think what we love about success stories is that it encourages us and it helps us remember the victories, and we can even, lean into the experiences of other people's victories and use the stories that people tell about their wins to remind ourselves of what the techniques are, remind ourselves that this is possible, remind ourselves that this is worthwhile. And Joe, you have shared with me some amazing success stories. And I'm hoping that you'll share a couple of them with us tonight.
Yes. Oh, where do I start?
Well, okay. So how about this? How about this? All right. So I think the first thing, Joe, that I want to talk to you about is this understanding of living in a quantum reality. And there's a term that you gave me a couple months ago. You were calling it a quantum bubble. Let's start with this idea of the quantum bubble because I feel like it is eclectic. It melds together a bunch of concepts in this in this realm of thinking. And then from there, you can use that to describe some of your experiences you've been having recently.
Yeah, so I describe a quantum bubble as basically putting a invisible bubble around you and to ensure that you keep your vibration and your projections your own. That's not to say we ignore the external world, but the quantum bubble analogy makes us really conscious of what we're observing and how we're interacting with the world. And when that takes place, it's kind of like puts us in our power, the presence in the present moment, and we're able to basically replicate what we've imagined or simulated, which is the whole point of manifestation. So I think that's a good analogy, and to project that which we have already impressed in the subconscious,
yeah,
in the field. So yeah, so if we use that analogy, we can walk through our days consciously and in a manner that's replicates what we've imagined. So that's the whole point, is to correlate the imagination with the reality we're experiencing.
Okay. So when we were talking about quantum bubble, what I liked about it was that it took this idea of a multi-solipsistic reality, meaning that each one of us are living in our own individual reality field that intersects and perhaps overlaps other people's reality fields, but it's still ours. It's still our solipsistic reality, meaning that what is true for us can be uniquely true for us. And because we're in our own state of being, living our own experience in our own reality field, and someone right next to us can be experiencing the same part of the overlapping reality fields, but something completely different can be true for them. So the idea of being in my own personal reality then melded with the idea of literally a sphere that contains all of my bioenergy, all of my local awareness, and then placing that sphere around me consciously, being aware of that sphere around me consciously. It unlocks a different layer of thinking. And you touched on something there that I want to dig deeper into. So you were saying about, how each one of us has a quantum bubble, and how when we become aware and conscious of our quantum bubble, we can maintain the simulation in our quantum bubble and not allow other people's projections or their simulations to interfere or collapse the simulations that we're running in our quantum bubble. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you see that in particular?
So what comes to mind with that is that, let's say we're in a situation where we have others around us, and we're all observing similar things. I'll take the football analogy from watching football with friends. And I have a projection, and that projection was cast maybe the night before, the week before, or even a year before. And if I'm watching with them, I will have to maintain my composure, even though they may be projecting things that I'm not agreeing with. I have to maintain my composure to kind of remain in my quantum bubble and, in a way, override their projections. Sometimes verbally, sometimes I might have to say a word or two to override or correct a false narrative. And other times, just remain in my power and just override it internally, which I've found to be just as effective, if not more, because sometimes it can be antagonistic if you use your words to override someone else's feelings or projections.
Sure.
So that's kind of an example of where we are living in a collective projection reality, but we are also subjecting our own projection onto the screen of space, which others can then buy into, provided we maintain our point of power presence.
Yes.
So it's not a thing to do. It's an art. It's not only a skill, it's an art, and it requires a lot of practice.
Yes.
It's amazing when it works, because you feel this reverence come over you. Something transpires the way you've imagined it. And I think the the less we try and control it, the more it's able to flow through us. So I've had many examples of this, and it's just a thrill.
Yeah. So I remember last time we had a chat, you and I, on Zoom. You're describing how you have this passion for live sports, and how you use this technique of, you call it projection, but the rest of us, in the Neville might refer to that as like the feeling of the wish fulfilled, or visioning the outcome, having the scene of what we desire to happen. So you use live sports as a way to practice manifesting a reality. And you go to these games where you are surrounded by people who are completely unaware of their power and are reactive to every little thing. The ball goes this way, the ball goes that way. Everybody's, oh my God, right? And you're just like in the middle of it saying, I've already seen the outcome of this game, and I'm going to sit here. And I mean, I'm imagining that you're stoic. Maybe you are not stoic, but I'm imagining that you're just like, no, I've already seen the outcome. What's fun for me is watching it work out, the bridge of incidents work out in real time to get to this outcome. And I think that's so, there's something really bold about like choosing live sports as a way to practice this power. And I think that's just so cool.
It's really, really difficult. It's taken me a long time to manage my emotions and control the simulation, especially when you have others in your ear and hanging off you and trying to sway your opinion. But it is a big place to practice this kind of thing. And because I'm passionate about it and I have friends around me, I might slip in a word every now and then. I might say, look, I've already seen the outcome, so I'm just going to chill. You can do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always go our way or my way, but it does 90% of the time, which is amazing. And I'm not advocating this to, in a gambling sense or a betting sense, because I feel with that, if you put financial wager on it, it kind of skews your perception. Yeah. So I never ever put a wager on this kind of activity. It's more to practice my manifestation abilities and to see the joy on the faces of the people around me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to dig more into that, but first we got the chat going wild over here. So I'm gonna read some things here. So we've got Love Life. Hi Joe. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. Been a massive Neville fan for 8 years. That's pretty cool. So you got a neighbor down there, also into Neville. Also it says, hi Josiah, thank you for what you do. I've been listening to you for many years. Well, thank you for that, Love Life. I appreciate you, and thank you for being here and for the comments. Good evening to Ramon. We've got Moon Bunny. Hello, Moon Bunny. Moon Bunny says we can literally create a new world and phase it in. Elena wants to know, Joe, did you know that the Canucks would lose?
So who are the Canucks?
The Canucks. Okay, yeah, so wrong sport. Okay. So I'm not really sure either. I've heard it before. Is it hockey? It might be hockey.
Okay. But I know about basketball. My son goes for Boston.
Yeah.
And they've already won. So there you go.
Okay. So hot tip, Joe says Boston's already won. There you go. Telegraph. It means from the future, right? You're talking to a guy from the future and he says Boston's already won. So that's amazing. Cool. All right. I'm ready to open up a beverage because this is Neville and Chill, y'all. We just get together. We have fun conversations about things that matter, but we do it in this lighthearted sense. And it's all about enjoying the journey. So, Joe, I'm going to let you go first. What are you drinking tonight, my friend?
I've made myself a tonic of fresh lemon and oranges. So from the lemon tree.
Okay.
The color.
Beautiful.
Fresh. And added a bit of pink salt for the 84 trace minerals you've found in that salt.
Yes.
And I drink structured water, which I have connected to the mains at the house. So the water is structured, which means it's energized and purified. So I think it's the elixir of life.
The elixir of life. All right. Cheers to that, Joe. That's awesome. Okay. So over here, I'm on Hayo. This is called Hayo. This is a non-alcoholic social tonic. How appropriate since we're in Neville and chilling tonight. And this flavor is blackberry lemon. It's organic. And it says it is a functional seltzer because it contains nootropics. I always read off the ingredients here. So it's carbonated filtered water, organic flavors, organic blackberry juice, if erythritol, I think that's a sweetener, organic cane sugar, lemon balm extract, KSM 66 ashwagandha, there's your nootropic, passion flower extract, organic green tea for its theanine, ginger extract, and organic lemon juice concentrate. There we go. And lion's mane extract, which is another nootropic. So I'm pretty excited about this. And I think I've shared a Hayo drink before. I don't know if it was this flavor, but I definitely love what they've got going on here. They're light and they're refreshing and just perfect for a night like tonight. So so this one's blackberry lemon. It's light, it's carbonated, and I'll give you my full review in just a second. But first, cheers, Joe, to Neville and chill and living that quantum good life. And to everyone in the chat, cheers, my friends. Hugo says Neville would be having a martini. Yes, he would. You'd be having a gin. I think he liked his martinis with gin. I don't know. I heard him talking one time. He was like comparing a gin martini versus I guess a vodka martini. And he was explaining why, which one he preferred and why. I thought that was great. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
You remember when Neville had his first oyster?
No, tell us that story.
I think he was young, and I think he went out with his parents, and he was presented with oysters, and not to be rude, he had it, and he was just sitting in his mouth, and he had to like, all of a sudden swallow it, and he couldn't stand it, and he was unwell for a long time after that. And he was saying that that feeling made him unwell. And then as older, he grew to love oysters, and then he didn't need to, the feeling changed, which means he didn't need to regurgitate the oysters.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting, analogy for how the feeling creates the outcome.
Yes.
And body, to the point where you react with your body.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting, the idea of the feeling creates the experience versus the experience creates the feeling. It's that chicken and the egg concept here. But based on what Neville is teaching us, it's always the feeling that's coming first, even if you're not conscious and aware that that's what it is, because the feeling literally is the secret that creates our reality. Joe, so there's one thing that I got kind of stuck in my brain here that I really want to understand from your perspective. So, okay, so let's roll with this live sports example, because I love it. I love it because it's real time. There's active pressure, like pushing back on whatever you're projecting, right? You're doing it in live action scenarios. I mean, I'll ask you, are you imagining before you get to the game, and then the game is just walking the bridge of incidents, or like, where does this start for you?
Starts at the end. So I imagine the whole season.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you go straight to the end of the whole season.
And then I reverse engineer, and week by week, things play out, and then I adjust my feeling accordingly. But I don't allow external, this is the trick, I don't allow any external noise to sway my feeling or my projection. So even if I read a piece on my phone, or I see a piece on the TV or online media, social media, I don't allow it to sway my projection.
Okay, so in fact, you say,
actually what I very important. What I actually do is I contribute to the narrative. So this is very important. I contribute to the narrative. So I'll get on the front foot and I will post something on a video, whether it's a YouTube video or a social media post with my thoughts. So that's my projection. And more often than not, I get quite a few likes because it's always of a positive nature.
Yeah.
So I feel that helps. And also if I have a conversation with a friend prior to the game or on the way to the game, that further reinforces, because our word is creating our reality, not only the feeling, but the word, because as you and I know, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God. Now, word is mind and speech, both.
Yes.
Mind is imagination, as Neville would call it, and speech is actual word, or another term for speech is action. So the doing. So when we combine those two, it becomes a powerful force. So if we get opposing forces that contradict our narrative, we have to maintain our power again and internally override those. So it's not easy, but yeah, that's kind of the thing that I get on the front foot, I call it, and I post things, I project things that set the tone and narrative. For example, I have a group chat with our team, and every now and then there might be a negative comment, and I'm continually overriding that and projecting positive outcome, and that works. It works. It really does work, because in the end, the result comes the way that I projected it, and then I don't have to say anything after that, because the result speaks for itself. So it's a really powerful way to practice manifestation.
So you are choosing the desired outcome for this live, well, actually for the whole season. So you have a team that you follow, that you're a fan of. And so you imagine their success by going to the end of they've won the cup.
Yeah.
And then starting at the beginning of the season, you're remaining faithful to that vision of this team won the cup, game by game, week by week. And you're actively, as you said, getting on the front foot. So like proactively writing the narrative by saying and doing what would be true,
Correct.
or what would be aligned with the event happening in the way that you've envisioned it.
Yeah, the outcome, yeah. So yeah, an example would be last year, my team won the AFL premiership. And that was a projection I did 12 months earlier, because the year prior to that, 2022, I was not able to override the projections of others in my household. And I learned that day, and I was exhausted trying to do it. And we ended up losing by a point, the narrowest of margin. So from that moment forward, I took a different approach and spoke less, really projected for the next year, and took an image of the final outcome. And then I took that image, I took a snapshot in my imagination, impressed it into my subconscious, which is our heart. And then fast forward 12 months later, and that exact image was produced on the screen of space. And I actually took a photo of the exact image that I impressed and assumed within. And it was like, I don't know if you remember in the old days when we would process a film, we'd have to go into a dark room. So the dark room is the subconscious. And then once you bring the light into that film, it then exposes itself onto the screen of space. So that's kind of, it's exactly the same way that we manifest. So that image ended up producing itself on the screen of space as reality. But I can tell you, the weeks leading up to it, it was a challenge, because every game the universe was testing me and the team. So it's not only my projection, but it's projection of hundreds of thousands of others, as well as the team itself. And they had their methods of doing it, because I've seen the documentary, which was aligning with what I'd projected. So everyone contributes to the outcome, I'm not saying I caused it alone. I did contribute, but what I will say, I was tested every week, and the season ended up being one of the most. It's been described as like not even real. You cannot. There was like 10 or 15 games decided under a goal, and each of those games I had to hold my nerve and really stick with the outcome. And some of the finishes were just like, they'll go down in history. Even the grand final was one of the greatest in history. So even all the finals, it was a miracle. So yeah, that's kind of what I had to do.
So I'm getting some good questions in the chat for you here, Joe. But before I get into them, can you describe? Okay, so well, first of all, so your neighbor from Melbourne is saying, Joe, are you a Collingwood supporter?
I say.
Awesome. Okay, so we cleared that up. So it's Collingwood. Okay, so what exactly was the scene that you dramatized in your imagination that became the projection that you remained faithful to for an entire season that came true in the flesh and played out in front of you?
The exact scene was the captain of the Collingwood Football Club. His name's Darcy Law, holding the cup, and he's got long flowing hair, and I saw him holding the cup with the flowing hair, holding the cup to the crowd in front of us. And that's exactly the image I took. So I have that image, and I posted it on my socials, and I wrote the same caption as evidence. And the amazing thing was that the entire crowd was looking elsewhere, and he was looking. When I took the snapshot, he was looking right at me and my camera. It was as if it was a sign from the universe saying, "Thank you, well done, and here it is. Here's your prize." But the funny thing is, another great sign was sometimes we get signs along the way. Another great sign was when I was walking into the ground. My son and I were late for the game, and there was some circumstances around that. But we were outside of the ground, and someone happened to be walking through with the cup itself. Now, it wasn't the Premiership Cup that was on up for grabs on the day, but it was a cup that our team had won in 1990. So, but it was the cup. So as the guy came through, I stopped him and I said, "Would you mind if I could take a photo?" And I handed the cup to my son, and I took a photo of him holding the cup. This is before the game, and my son didn't understand the significance of that moment, but I did. And then we watched the game, and then the result turned out the way I imagined. And then I said to him, "Do you know why the cup was presented to us before the game started?" And no, now, because it's a sign that we were going to win.
Yeah.
So, and it was a beautiful. Like, what are the odds of a cup walking through? 5 minutes into the game had already started because we were late, and no one outside, and just a cup appears out of nowhere. And synchronicities that we have when we learn how to practice this amazing ability that we all have called simulation. And I've come to realize that maybe we live in a simulation and a holographic projection, and maybe not all is what it seems, because everything we see in the external are the projections of others until we learn how to become the dominant projection or projector. Yes. Then our projection takes precedence. That's not to undermine anyone else, because we value everyone's projections. I think we should all contribute to a collective projection that is wonderful for everyone. So that's my philosophy.
Brilliant. So in Sunday Mystery School, we are talking every week about the Neville tradition of how to create reality. And we've been calling it scene creation. It's going to the end, exactly as you described, creating a scene, dramatizing that scene, adding sensory elements to it, giving it detail, and then in our imagination, we call it in the portal state or state akin to sleep, that sleepy state, just because that's the most effective way to do it, at least to learn it first. Going into your imagination, into the portal state, and playing out that scene. So that whole concept you have put into a single word: simulation. So you simulate the desired outcome imaginally first before it actually occurs in your 3D cubic reality. So you so I love that simulation just kind of puts like a word on that whole idea. And I really I'm thinking about this idea of holding, so creating a simulation and then remaining faithful to it. And particularly in the environment of live sports, which may or may not be the same as other parts of our lives, there's a lot of competing narratives and a lot of competing perspectives and a lot of other people's simulations. Well, not so much simulations because most of them are unconscious. A lot of people's projections, which are probably reactive and not proactive. I mean, most people don't necessarily understand their power of writing ahead of time what they experience in reality. Okay. So you're in a situation where you've seen it, but then you have to remain loyal to it. And then by remaining loyal to it and staying in your bubble and remaining grounded in your bubble, you're able to override the projections of others. And when you're not able to do this, if you allow, like you said, someone makes a negative comment and then you allow that to like seep into your consciousness or like kind of dull or sag your energy, now you're letting someone else write your reality for you. So, Sun and Mystery School have really been hitting this idea of being the author and being the self-governed nation, the ruler of the self-governed nation. So this is my reality, not in an egoic way, in a personal responsibility, sovereignty, ruling from a place of wisdom way. This is my reality. Yeah. I'm choosing to write it. Other people can write the reality however they see fit, but I'm going to remain faithful, loyal, and grounded to what I understand is my creative power, my birthright, right? My birthright is being sons of the Most High. So there's, so I think what I'm asking here is what do you do when you notice the competing projections? Like how do you remain faithful? Like what goes through your mind, or what is your process of remaining faithful?
Well, first thing I want to say about the simulation is reality. When we know this, like you said, when we are consciously aware of it, we are at an advantage. So because reality is a replication of the simulation or an emulation of the simulation. See how the words rhyme as well? One is within, without. So for example, if a sporting team is training for a specific, I would say a sporting team would need to train for a specific outcome rather than skills. Yeah. Because when you train, when you simulate for a specific outcome, that's what's going to play out. If you do it over and over, you're starting to reprogram the subconscious mind of not only the individual, but the team. Yeah. This is a real big tip for anyone that coaches anything. And it's one of my secrets. The thing is, you want to, it doesn't matter, even if you're playing the piano or if you're practicing any form of art or any type of sport or any type of performance for that matter, whether it's speaking, business, sales, you simulate to emulate. And that's the whole trick of life and manifestation.
Simulate, emulate. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So Joe,
and replicate the simulation.
Yes.
With your reference. Yeah.
Yes. So when you're in a real-time sporting event, obviously that's not a state akin to sleep. That's not a portal state of consciousness or hypnagogic. So you're just being very aware of your awareness and then choosing how to manage that awareness. Do you practice also imaginal pictures in the portal state of consciousness?
No, because when it comes to sporting events, I've
Or
already
just in
done that.
general? Yeah, just in
Uh,
general.
yeah, sometimes I do, but oftentimes I'm trying to live in the dream reality while I'm awake.
Ah, yes.
I'm projecting and imagining at the same time.
Yes.
It's like a real heightened state of mastery and awareness. It's
Mhm.
not easy to do because I fall in and out of that consciousness. But when I'm doing it, I just the dream, like the world becomes like a dream world, and it's really, it's on one hand it's powerful, but on the other hand it's quite daunting because you're at the cause.
Mhm.
It's just that most of us don't know to the extent that we are and are not,
Yeah.
that do or don't have this power. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, once you get to this level of, you practice it often enough, then the line blurs between reality and imagination, and you kind of live in. I want to say that you want to get to a state where you're living in a receptive mode, because there is a hidden hand and there is a force beyond our perception that is conspiring with us, for us. So
Yes.
it's not just us, like we're just playing the game with this other force. Call it God, call it the universe. I believe in a higher power because I've seen its hand being shown to me many times.
Yeah.
So you cannot create anything great without this wisdom or knowledge. I mean, that's just my feelings about it. You can create nice things in science and things like that, but Einstein worked it out. Niels Bohr worked it out. All the great inventors, all the great artists, they all give this power reverence, and they all speak of it. There's a great force at work, and it's energetic, it's spiritual, and I think we're moving into an age where more and more people are starting to understand it's not just a physical reality; it's
Yes.
very much spiritual and mental plane of existence.
Yes. So there's some comments here in the chat. So one question we have here is what or which other areas of your life have you witnessed success with consistency by applying these principles?
Well, having a child
Mm,
is a great success, because we were up against it when I was married, and I kept projecting and imagining my child, playing in front of me, and that's exactly what happened. So that's really good news for a lot of people that struggle to have children. It's got nothing to do with IVF or any scientific medical procedure. It's got to do with your ability to imagine the outcome and feel it real.
wow.
This is really cool. I mean, a lot of people are doing a lot of things that they don't need to do and not getting results. It's really, so this took place actually in 2021 or 22. A friend of mine, she was having troubles having a child, her second child, and then I went through this whole procedure with her, and lo and behold, she had a child. She kept practicing the image, and she had a child, and she kind of didn't even remember. And I said, "Do you remember the conversation we had?" And I said, "Did you practice that?" She goes, I did," and the child was born. So that was an example. Another example would be publishing 2 books. Now I've imagined those being on Amazon, and also when I was in the corporate world, for example, I was looking back. I didn't know what I know today, but looking back, there were certain areas of work, the departments that I wanted to work in. So one of them was, I said to myself, maybe in the early 2000s, I said, I was working at a telecommunications company, and I said, I'd love to travel. All I just said was, I'd love to travel and work in this role, but traveling. And then I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks later, there was a role to do exactly that, travel and support salespeople. And I ended up doing that for 6 months. And then I'm like, oh, I don't want to go back to my old role, because it was only a temporary role, which is all I wanted anyway. I only wanted to do it for 6 to 12 months, traveling away. And then I said, oh, I don't want to go back to that role. I want to stay in sort of IT and support. And that's what happened.
Mm.
And then one by one, every projection I made that I really had a feeling for, if it was fleeting, it was not going to work. But if I felt it in my heart and in my stomach, then it would manifest. Maybe not immediately, but it would manifest. So the third one was really powerful, which was there was a new technology being developed. We all know it now as cloud. And I went to a talk in around 2008-9, and they said that cloud was coming in, and our company was going to be investing heavily in it and creating a whole department and business unit around that offering and infrastructure. And I'm like sitting at this presentation watching them talk about it, and I'm like, oh geez, I'd love to work in that area. It's really exciting. I mean, I'm always for innovation and creativity, and engineering. And I thought, I just thought about it, felt it, and then I just let it go. And I thought, oh, there's no chance. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a software developer. Well, lo and behold, a year later, I find myself working in that department. I ended up working there for 4 years, and it was one of the greatest experiences, because it was virtually a startup within a corporation in a new technology, which is really exciting. We all know it now because we all use it. It's cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and the project was called Silver Lining. So the thing is, the universe was speaking in terms of there was a silver lining in the cloud. Like,
Mm-hmm.
these are all spiritual terms. I mean, even the cloud itself is a spiritual technology in a way, because it doesn't live on our devices anymore. Our information doesn't live on the devices; it lives in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of all leading me down the path of what I'm doing now with in terms of bringing this understanding through my work, and I'm devoting all my time to it now.
Mm-hmm.
It took time, but yeah. Well, these experiences led up to, so there's some practical experiences, like from childbirth to success in career.
Yes.
It's all the feeling that you would love. Key word is love. You have to love what it is because love is the energy of creation. Fear is also creative, because it's a similar energy on the opposite spectrum, side of the spectrum. So they're both powerful. But if you want to create something constructive, you would want to use the energy of love. If you want to create something destructive, then go ahead and use fear, and you'll see lots of destruction.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Very, very, the choice is ours. There's free will. It's the way God set it up. And it's actually brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Joe, you and I have talked at length over the years about this new paradigm that is being born on Earth. And I would just, if you could take a moment and just kind of paint the vision of what you see emerging during our lifetimes.
It was made very clear to me and to all of us over the past few years what took place. And I believe everything's orchestrated at a higher level for us to move humanity forward. So all these changes that have taken place are moving us in a direction of, either being left behind or being creators of our destiny and creators of our realities. So it's so crucial to understand this information, because it's going to make a difference going forward. As see the humanity splitting into those who don't want to understand this information and those who do, or this type of consciousness, this state of being. And those who don't will be controlled by the projections of others, and those who do will control their own projections. So that's why I speak about projections often. If you want to be sovereign, you would need to cultivate this kind of mindset.
Yes.
Not to say you can't work for somebody else. That's okay. But I feel like the creator economy is something that I'm very big on, because I feel like personal sovereignty and expression is the order of the new day and the new world. And that's why it's so important to cultivate this mindset and this consciousness, because no one else can do it for us. We have to do it ourselves individually. And we have all the tools now with the internet and technology to do so. So the world will split into what I call 3 and 5D. So 3D is the paradigm that's ending, and 5D is the new paradigm. So 3D is built on fear, and 5D is built on love, unity. And 4D, a lot of people ask what 4D is. 4D is 4-dimensional, is actually mind thinking. So the 4D is where we have a choice to go to 5 or 3, or we can stay in limbo and stay stuck between the two. So we each have a choice to go to 5D or remain in 3D. And eventually everyone will get to 5D, because evolution and unity will prevail. It's just the way it's set up. So people that aren't ready will not gravitate towards this vibration or information. And this, mind you, this is not something new. I want to make this clear. This is not something. This has been happening for millennia, but the difference between now and then was that the proliferation of information is now available to all.
Yes.
Whereas before it was only reserved for the select privileged few.
Mm-hmm.
About royalty and other secret societies and things like that.
Yes.
So, and a lot of people feel like esoteric wisdom or these types of teachings are evil, and I'm here to say that it's your perspective that's the issue, not the teachings themselves.
Yes.
And there are truths in all teachings, and there are lies in all teachings. So if something serves us, that's what we want to gravitate towards. And if we see results that are positive, that's the true measure of truth.
Mm-hmm.
If we're heading into an outcome that we like. Absolutely. So we're gravitating to that kind of new world where it's more about creative expression, freedom. And we're seeing it already with, from 2020 onwards with people working from home. Technologies that enable us, like online learning, e-learning.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that we want to continue to connect with other people on a personal level, and on a level where physical interaction is still very important. So we need to balance the two, because if we lose that physical interaction, then life becomes sterile, and also becomes a world where, the images on our computers and screens represent override the real thing, which is not, which is in the end is going to cost us emotionally at a physical level, because we need human interaction, we need human touch. Like there's nothing can replace a hug.
That's true. That's definitely true. Yes. Yeah.
So we still need, when we're moving into a creator and technological world, we still need that human element.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm watching the chat here, and I see that Crystal Clear is saying about what you mentioned about having success manifesting a child after being told that it was unlikely that this would happen. Crystal Clear says, it's like many couples who finally give up trying and then they adopt. And then once they are in that role of being a parent, now that they've adopted, they just naturally conceive and become pregnant.
Yeah. So that's the power of understanding this information. It's literally can create children and your world.
Yes.
Because if you look at the word word, W-O-R-D,
Yes.
and the word world, W-O-L-D, the only difference is the letter L.
Yes.
Which represents love.
Ah. Oh, I like that.
So your word creates your world.
Yes.
Word, mind, and speech.
And do it with love.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something profound about understanding that so we're living in a reality field, right? Each one of us are quantum bubbles. And then within that reality field, we create a world that we are experiencing. And that world that we're making through our projections and simulations is formed by our word, which is mind and speech, and what you're saying there. And if you understand that, like that's really all we need. Like that right there is the recipe, that sets us free, right? We talk in Sunday Mystical School about this being the truth that sets man free, and why it was so important to the ancients that they preserved this knowledge and passed it down to future generations, because they knew it was the one thing that we had to know. And obviously, we could find it within ourselves eventually, but they didn't want to leave it up to chance. They wanted to make sure that we had access to the wisdom, that they encoded it in stories and in traditions and in mystery schools and everything else, to make sure that we always had access to this truth that sets us free, which is, this concept of creating our worlds through mind and speech, through our word. That's, phenomenal reminder. Looking at the chat here again, we've got some people talking about connecting with each other and how important that is, and they're agreeing that that's what they're working on is building those physical connections and getting those hugs, as opposed to just allowing screens to dominate. We do have someone who's asking you a question, Joe. Shireen says, in terms of success in sales, what would you recommend that I simulate?
That's a really good one. So I was not a born salesperson. However, when I landed my first role, it was in sales, telecommunication services, and I ended up winning the award for sales without even trying, because I figured out now, looking back, it was nothing to do with my ability to sell a product. It was to do with me caring about the other person. So the key word is to care.
Yeah.
To relate to the other person, to empathize, to show love. And it's always the same thing. And if you do that, they will buy, even if they don't need the product.
Yeah.
So it's all about personal relationships. Sales is personal relationships. It's not even about the product. People want to feel heard, they want to feel cared for, and they want to feel loved. In fact, care is probably one of the most important words, because if you look at the symbol of the apple symbol, which is a symbol for Freemasonry. Now, if you look at that symbol, which is the compass, and the G in the middle represents the generative principle, and the generative principle, which creates everything, is care, which is another word for love, really. But anyway, it's care, and that's the generative principle that creates. Without that, nothing gets created.
Yes.
So if going back to sales, that's what you've got to do. Just care enough for the person, and the product will sell itself, particularly if you believe in the product. Now, if you don't believe in the product, then I would suggest that you change your role or find the product that you do believe in, because at the end of the day, every business is selling a product or a service.
Yes.
If you're struggling with sales, maybe one of the other things that you could look at was maybe you don't believe in the product.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Then it doesn't matter what you do, because the underlying feeling is that this product is not worth selling.
Yeah. So I have a background in sales also. So I've come to understand that it's what you say about the product is only part of it. It's your belief in the product as the salesperson that is communicated in the energy of the interaction. So, I can say, all day long that something's great and the person should buy it. But if I don't have that belief, there's something flat about my words. And most people can see right through that. And they're not going to want something that I don't, as the presenter, believe in. Okay, so let's say that that's not the issue. Let's say that it's a great product. Let's say that it's something that we do believe in, and let's say that we know that it's worthwhile to be doing this. We feel like we're on trend for our lives, on point for our our value system, right? And it's something we believe in, and then we want to sell it. What is an example of a simulation that we would run ahead of time to then emulate in reality that would convey the success in sales?
You would need to see the person that you're selling to using the product and feel the satisfaction for them.
Using the product, not buying the product, not handing you a check, using the product, which jumps straight to the end. Yes, and being satisfied, right? Because we don't want returns. We want happy customers. So jump straight to the end where they're happy and using.
And see them prospering from the purchase.
Prospering.
Yeah, and filling a need, and you feeling satisfied that you've satisfied that need. So go to the end where they are using or making use of the product, and really tap into the feelings that they are satisfied with that product and happy with it, and you're happy that they have it, and you've been rewarded for doing so as a byproduct of that interaction or that engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you absolutely just nailed that, Joe. I think that's the perfect way to do it for all the reasons that we just highlighted here about jumping to the end, and also making the scene align with your values, right? Because if you really do believe in your product and you know that it's good for your customer, you want to see them in your simulation, using it, and enjoying it, and then coming back to you and telling you that it was a great fit and that they're pleased, happy, and satisfied as a customer. I think that's a great way of positioning what you're doing in a way that is in alignment with values and with this theme of love, right? Because it's like, that's the best place from which to ever simulate anything, is a place of love, care, as you put it, and appreciation.
It's what made, if you look at the most successful people, I'll name two. Jeff Bezos with Amazon really cares about his customers and went out of his way to make sure that customers that was his priority. That's well known.
Yes.
And always sought to have customer feedback as top priority. So that's why the company is growing to where it is today. And also Warren Buffett is another person, even though he's an investor, not necessarily selling products, he's selling investments, but he cares about his investors and the relations he has with them. And he's really, like, if you look at his life, it's all about care. I mean, he mentioned something where, he started Berkshire Hathaway 30 or 40 years ago, whatever it was, but he's only ever turned over about half a dozen people or a dozen people. It's incredible, company that size. So people that start with him stick with him because he cares, and they want to be around that.
Yes.
And so there are a couple of examples.
Yeah. I'm reminded in this moment of Neville's brother, Victor, who Neville taught how to use imagination in business. And Neville telling the story that what Victor would do, because Victor ran a chain of stores, I think just general merchandise stores throughout the Barbados and the other Caribbean islands. And so Victor was making sales arrangements, having working with vendors, customers, clients, that type of stuff in the role of being, kind of the operator of this business in Neville's family. And so what Victor would do is he would recline back in an easy chair after breakfast, and in a relaxed physical state in his mind's eye, he would go and live through the meetings that he had on the books for that day. He would meet with the people in his imagination first, and he would see them and shake their hand, and then like fast forward to the end of the conversation where they're happy and satisfied, like, yep, we've made an agreement, and then feel that energy of like, yes, we did this, right? To like, yes, success. Shake their hand, let them go, move on to the next meeting. So he would invest that time daily to pre-simulate the meetings that he had on the calendar for that day. And obviously, to this day, Goddard Enterprises is one of the premier businesses in that area. I visited their headquarters when we went to Barbados. I have a selfie in front of Goddard Enterprises. So standing as a testament to this day of the power of imagination used in business.
Yeah, I know of that story, and simulating at the start of your day or the night before is so. So if you've got some sales or anything to do the next day that requires your a result or an outcome, which invariably it always does, then we would be wise to incorporate this practice into our daily routine and nightly routine. So I would suggest simulating the night before. So, for example, when my son is going to play a game of basketball the next day, I would say to him to simulate the night before how he wants to go in his imagination and replay it in his mind and fall asleep to that.
Yes.
And I've used that myself to manifest other things as well. And when I haven't used it, then I leave it to chance and it doesn't turn out as well.
Precisely. Yeah. Exactly. So when I was back in college, I was doing a thesis. I wrote a thesis on the use of, we didn't call it imagination because this is college, it's academic, right? So they called it creative visualization. That was the industry or academia term for it years ago. Use of creative visualization in achieving peak performance states. And in the research, I had to go collect a bunch of research papers and analyze them and write a thesis out of this. And in the research that I was reading through, they were talking about putting these high performance athletes into float tanks and having them, in the case of being a runner, in a float tank, right? So the sensory deprivation float tank, completely isolated, relaxed, floating. And then in their mind's eye, in the darkness and in the silence, they're running the race ahead of time and seeing themselves win. And their body's not moving at all. It's all completely mental. We called it mental rehearsal. That's the academic term for it. Mental rehearsal and creative visualization. And then they would take them out of the float tank and they would run the races, and they were noticing performance increases, like tangible performances. They're running faster, with better, physical, measurements, right? Of like how their bodies are working, everything else. Like they're markedly improving physically and also outcomes by going through this process of mental rehearsal. So it applies to literally anything that you desire to do, this idea of simulating ahead of time. And I love what you said there about you have to do this or you just leave it up to chance. And it's like, are you going to be the author of your life, or are you going to roll the dice and just let probabilities and chance take the reins, which can be fun, right? But we, in the Neville persuasion, we tend to choose to prefer to be the author.
Well, it's a superpower, and use it or lose it too, because if you don't use it often, you tend to forget and just go through the motions. And it's happened to me as well, even though I'm consciously aware of it. We really have to devote the time to it, because when it works, it's the most amazing thing. So I'll give you an example. Behind me, I have a book. I'll just grab it.
Sure. While you do that, I'm going to look at the chat here, see if there's any other questions to grab for you.
So this book here, this book here is the Neville reader.
Yes, the complete reader. Yes.
So this is an amazing manifestation story, one of my favorites. And when this first came out, it was about 2011 when I first discovered Neville. And it came up on my feed, I think on Amazon or somewhere like that. And all I did was look at it and I'm like, oh, I've got to buy this book, or I'd love to have this book. That's all I said. Again, love to have this book.
Love.
And then I forgot all about it. And then, I don't know, it would have been a month or 2 or 3 later, this book turns up in my mailbox. I didn't buy it. I did not buy this book. And not only this, another 2 books which I have over there. One of them is something to do with the heart, and the other one is King Solomon. So those 3 together. So love, wisdom. So King Solomon, love, Psalms, and this.
Wow.
They're the 3 together. I mean, how do you explain that?
It's an anomaly. It's perfect.
Yeah. It did come in an envelope. It did come addressed to me. And I worked out where it came from in the end, but I never paid for it and I never asked for it.
Yeah. Well, you did, but you didn't. Yeah. You said, I'd love this. I mean, you're like, I'd love to have this book. That's asking your dimensionally greater self for it. And your dimensionally greater self. Yeah, absolutely. Sent you a little gift there.
Yeah. So that's another story. I want to mention one more because it's really powerful. Yeah. Is that a friend rang me up, called me, and he said, I'm looking to get this car. And he said, this car is worth $1 million because it's the last production car of a car company that Australia shut down, Holden, which is now shut down. It was that was owned by the by General Motors, and General Motors closed the division in Australia, so they're not making this model anymore. And it was the last car, but it was also a supercar, they called it, V8 and limited edition, and the car's worth $1 million. And it's one of only, I think, 3 or something like that, maybe a handful. And he said, I don't know if I said it or he said it. I said, don't worry about paying $1 million. Just offer him 600,000.
Yeah.
Like 40.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know, a month later, he sends me a video on my phone, and it was the truck delivering the car. It was coming off the ramp.
Yes.
And he goes, here's the car, 600,000, just as you said.
Awesome. Yes.
And not only that, it was the owner of the company who was given that car as a memento, and that car is the only one with those specifications, the only one. Awesome. And yeah, I've been in that car since. It's an amazing feeling. And he was like, yeah, he said, guys, this is all you. This is your manifestation.
I'll take it. That's great. That's great.
The power of the word, even when you offer suggestions to friends and you do it with love and you do it with sincerity, and you see them. In this case, I didn't even go to the end of him owning the car. I just put it out there with genuine sincerity. And when you find out the bridge of incidents and the details behind it, it's all conforming to your projection, because what I found out was that the reason why the person had to sell the car for that amount was that circumstances were that the person required money and funds. So
yes,
yeah, I found out there's a backstory behind it.
yeah,
But as Neville would say, and that's all part of the what does he call it, Josiah? When the bridge of
bridge of incidents.
What happened anyway? Like,
It would have happened. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yep.
it's not really would have happened anyway. We created that to happen.
Yes, yes. But it happened so naturally that someone else who wasn't aware of what we did when we went into the closet and closed the door and ran the simulation, they would say, oh, that would have happened anyway, but we know better because we're in the state of being the author. All right, so I do have a couple of things here in the chat that we're going to talk about, and then we'll see where we are. So there's a question. Can you teach this to children, Joe, or do they somehow just already know?
This is one of my favorite things, is to teach it. I've taught this to my son.
Yes.
And he goes to school and learns something else, but invariably he does apply it because he's seen that it works.
Yes.
And sometimes he'll challenge me because the narrative at school is challenging, and the narrative from other friends. But we do know it as children, not all of us. Depends on our upbringing and our environment. But definitely the children between 0 and 7 are most receptive. But that's not to say up until 18 they can't receive this, and they should.
Yes.
It's going to make all the difference in their lives. And I had a challenging period, not during my upbringing, because I can't complain about that. I had a very good upbringing, but I was forced to go to the other side to see what the other side was like, then come back to what I know today, so that I have a well-rounded perspective of consequences. So I went through a period of depression and other such things, where it was almost self-imposed, but I think it was orchestrated at a higher order as well. So I can understand that. Coming back now, I can see the value and the power of understanding this way to control reality. We don't have ultimate control, but we can set the course, and then we must work with that higher power. I don't want to say that we have ultimate control, because we don't. We are co-creators. So children should learn this and must learn this if we are to have a better world tomorrow. And that's going to be one of my focuses, is because I'm actually going to partner with the school to bring some of this curriculum to them. And so that's now, I've already connected with someone with regards to that, who I met at a conference at my son's school. And when she met me and I told her what I was doing, she was like, wow, this is exactly what we need.
Awesome.
So yeah, coming, this is very important. I love children.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, we've got some folks in the chat here that are talking about also feeling inspired to teach their children. Crystal Clear has a couple of children, 4.5 and 2, and she just says, I hope I can teach them properly in this way. Moon Bunny talking about the possibility of opening a school specifically for this type of teaching, but in a way that, children can resonate with it. Moon Bunny points out that children can learn these topics, and there's just a lot of distractions. So I think it's just important to make sure they're getting that clear signal about the way this works, and then learning to override the distractions and remain focused. I see we have Heen with us. Hello. I also saw Orlana earlier. Hello, Orlana. I didn't say hi to you. Welcome. I've been so engrossed in this chat here. So the viewer here who asked about sales, Joe, says they are selling real estate. So the comment is, go to the end and see them happy at the closing table, is what I am understanding. So that would be one vision. A home is a very precious and sacred thing. A home is where people live together, create families, if there's children involved, children have a profound sense of home. So yeah, I think there's a lot of rich imaginal scenes to simulate there, where you could see, the people loving the home, growing in the home, having a family in the home, or just, living, their best lives, being really happy in the home. And I know realtors, it's usually a relationship thing. So you're building relationship with the people, and you hope that eventually when their needs change, they need a new place that they'll come back to. So you could always fast forward to that and see them a couple years down the road after they've been successfully living in this house and they're feeling, good about it. And then just hearing their, your simulated story of how much they've enjoyed the place, and how much they appreciated, being able to get it. So yeah, there's just, I think doing it from a place of love is always going to guide you in the right direction of how to build the scenes. But I think there's been some very valuable tips that we've surfaced in this too about making sure that we are going to the end and actually seeing them enjoying, whatever they've bought from us, in that full state.
Yeah.
Talking about the bridge of incidents, driving and cruising in the end, for your story about the car. Mike, who has several children, he says, my kids start early. My 5-year-old is very receptive, but the older ones, 11 and 16, just roll their eyes. I expect they'll come back and ask me about it in a few years. Anna reminds us that Neville told the story of a little boy who manifested a puppy simply by overhearing Neville teach his mother about something else. That's a fun story.
But we have to remember that we're all manifesting.
Yes.
All the time. So therefore, if a child is not receptive, all we have to do is ask them to look at the results and the outcomes and whether they're happy with those.
Yes.
And then correlate it back to the thought or the imagination or, what they've planted prior in the simulation. Once they get that, the whole world's going to change. It's not easy to do when you've been living a certain way. It's like reversing the mind. We've all been living, to be honest. That's why the 1% own the 99%. They actually live in the right manner.
Yes.
And we are now going back to about the changing, Earth 2.0 and 5D is getting the 1% to become the 99.
Yes, exactly. The flip.
Yeah. They've worked it. The 1% have worked out what we're talking about.
Yes.
And there are some prominent figures who, when I've read their books or biographies, and I've read between the lines, and I can see exactly what they've done, even if they don't know it.
Yes.
Extraordinary. It's so obvious. It's so glaring when you understand this information, what they've done, whether they know it or not. And most of the time they do know it.
Yes.
It's brilliant as well, because we can all participate in this magic, and it's not magic, it's actually real.
Yes. It proves itself in performance every single time.
That's the word, performance.
Performance, yeah. Beautiful. Sadala says, what about setting an hour aside to rehearse a scene over and over? So I think the question there is, how often, or how much energy do you need to invest to rehearse this scene? What do you do, Joe?
If something's really important to you, you will probably do it constantly.
Yeah. Without ceasing.
And especially if something's urgent. What happens is when something's urgent or something's really invention, what do they say? Invention is the mother of necessity. And when something's urgent, or when you really desire something from the heart, which again is the subconscious, then you collapse the quantum wave instantly. So if it comes to, especially when you're doing it for other people, I find it easier for me to do it when my projection is for others rather than myself. Sometimes I go without or I can project for others. I should be doing a lot more projections for myself. But to answer the question is you can, if something's really important, you will know, you'll feel, once you felt it and you feel satisfied, then it's done.
Once you felt it and you feel satisfied, then it's yep. So so it's without ceasing until then, until you felt it and you feel satisfied. That's that feeling of satiation. In Sunday Mystery School, we talk about it being the feeling of virtue has gone out. Something has actually gone out. We say travel has occurred. I've actually been to that reality field where that is true. I've actually placed my awareness in that place. And so that's how I know that I have marked it and giving it the right of birth. To go back to the story of Esau, Isaac, and Jacob, giving it the birthright. So the imaginal state has received the birthright to become real, born into the material reality. And we do that again by feeling it and that feeling of satisfaction.
It comes down to a question of focus.
Okay.
Because sometimes when we're forced to focus on something because we have no other option, we're inadvertently collapsing the quantum wave of possibility to produce an outcome.
Yes.
And this is very important when it comes to, for example, if you've got I don't like to use the word deadline, but if you've got a lifeline that you need to pay something, pay something by a particular time, then all your energy is going into that outcome, and more often than not, a way presents itself. And also, for example, if someone finds themselves ill, it's important not to buy the verdict of another person, because if you do, you're going to manifest that verdict. So this is a real game changer when it comes to health as well. It's important to have sovereignty and use the powers of your own imagination to produce outcomes that are in alignment with what you want to see and not what others tell you is going to happen to you, because that's a premonition, it's a forecast from another person, and it's a projection of another person.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm very cautious when seeing anyone external, to ensure that if it doesn't match up with how I want to see my life and feel, that I am consciously overriding that.
Yes.
And when we do that, you'll be amazed. Like, for example, if someone gets a blood test 1 week and then, they override that projection, they can go back the next week and it'll be completely different.
Yeah.
This is a game.
Yeah.
The problem is we've outsourced our authority for too long. And it's time to take our power back.
Brilliant. In the last Neville and Chill last week, that was the word that we were talking about. Authority. Authority. And the idea that when we project our authority onto someone else and give them authority, we're giving them the right of authorship. So now they're writing the story.
And authenticity comes from the same word.
Authenticity. It's a city that the author lives in. Authenticity. Okay. That's great. Great call out there. Joe, go ahead.
I like that word, author. It's authority. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Authority. So Joe, one more thing. So I've heard in our conversations over the years, several times you've shared stories that start with, "That's not what I heard." Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Can you share that with us?
It reminds me of the Neville story where the guy went into the record shop, I think it was, and he was looking for a specific record, and the shop owner said, that record's not here, or it's not available anymore. And basically he turned around and said, "That's not what I heard. I heard it's available." And then magically the album fell out of the shelves. So when I heard that, I kind of began applying that myself. And I actually did it recently where, just a practical example, I wasn't able to get into a football game because it was sold out. And I kept refreshing this screen and it kept telling me, no, that's not, the game sold out. And I kept saying, that's not what I saw and that's not what I heard. And I just, I went to the game without a ticket, and I just kept the faith. And eventually, just before 10 minutes before the game, I refreshed the screen, and lo and behold, a ticket became available for my son and I. And that was a lesson that I actually took my son through, because he was part of the whole thing, because he's the one that was asking me to get the ticket 2 weeks ago, and I forgot to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, why did you leave it to the last minute? And I said, I'm going to show you how this works.
Show you how it works. We're going to make a demonstration.
Yeah, this is a demonstration, and I want you to keep the faith. And the universe tested us right to the last minute.
Yep.
We're standing in line, the whole place is full, and I just click refresh, and would you believe it? 2 tickets came up, and not only did they come up, they were the cheapest tickets.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, bonus.
It was, and then when my friends saw me in there, of course, they're like, "Oh, how did you get in?"
Yeah. I'm the author. What can I say? I'm the author. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So that, yeah, you can say that you can override projections by saying that's not what I heard or that's not what I saw.
Yep.
Another one is my brother was in the market for a new truck. He's in the construction game, and he's said to me, oh, yeah, this truck, because of the slowdown in the economy a few years ago, that there was parts that weren't available and so forth, and it was delaying the manufacture. And he said, this truck's not going to be available for 8 months. My immediate reaction was, no, it's going to be available a lot quicker than that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They said, no, it's 8 months, 8 to 10 months or something. And I said, no, I'm telling you, it's going to be here in less than 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
See what happened. The truck magically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
So,
I've got a good one for you from the chat here, Joe. Can this power be used to stop war?
100%. Without question. Because we're feeding it with our observation.
Aha.
We're feeding it. And the minute we take our attention away from anything adverse to life, which is a term that Elon Musk uses a lot, that
adverse to life. Yeah. Okay.
That once we take our eyes off it and we stop feeding it, that projection no longer exists. That's why I say life is a game of projections. That's what my second book's all about. It's a game of projections. Now, does war really exist? So that question.
The plot device, but is it real?
It's only in the eyes of the beholder.
Yes.
Like everything. So, I use the analogy that, back in 2020, when the whole world was shut down, if you were on a deserted island and you had no access to information or internet or anything, would you know that there's anything wrong? You wouldn't know anything. So your world is where you live, internally first and then externally.
Quantum bubble.
So to answer the question is, don't feed war and you won't see war.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feed anything that you don't want to see and you won't see it. Yes. So I try to live my life in a way where I'm projecting nice things.
Yes.
And lo and behold, every day I see nice things.
Yes.
It's not all roses and unicorns, but it is majority of the time a pleasant experience. And that's what we're here to do, create a heaven on earth. People say, oh, that's utopian, or you can't do that. We can, and we should.
Yeah. Yes. We can, and we should, and we must, really. When we know we are the author, we must. Yeah.
Well, these billionaires buy ships. Mm-hmm. They're sailing in the water. They're that's their reality, is the ship.
Yes.
You know, they're not subject to terrestrial law on the water.
Mhm.
And they've reality to the point where they can be in their own space in the middle of the ocean.
Mhm.
That's the perfect analogy of like what is real. What is real in this world? What is real is what we subject ourselves to. That's the only answer.
Yes. Reality is
Well, that's,
subjective in that way.
I used to ask myself the same question, like, why is there poverty in this world? Poverty.
Mhm.
And I would wrestle with this question, and then the answer dropped. There's poverty for a lack of consciousness. No other reason.
Yeah.
Because we have the resources, we have the money, we have abundance. There's no need for poverty. There's only one thing, and that's consciousness, awareness that was suppressed. People were suppressed. And with the advent of Starlink, that's all changing, because now information is available to anyone, anywhere.
Yes.
And you watch the rise of humanity in the next 10, 15, 20 years. It's going to be astronomical, especially in places like Africa and Middle East, and
Mhm.
also the Latin America.
Mhm.
It's going to be blowing. The West has had this dominion for a long time.
Yes.
Now it's open to all.
Yes.
What we're seeing, less racism, less division. The world's getting better, contrary to popular belief. The world's
Yes.
getting better to increase our conscious awareness of how reality is actually created. And I've
Yes.
just given it to the world right now. It's what we subject ourselves to, is what we experience. And that's it. It's so simple, but it's so magnificent.
Absolutely. Something I've been thinking about in terms of this idea of war. So, you know, we can't create something outside that is not first created inside. We can't, shave the mirror. We can only shave our face and then see our shaved face in the mirror. Well, obviously I don't, but it's an analogy. So this idea of war, can we stop war? Well, yeah, but we do that by finding profound peace within ourselves, within like making peace. So, I was very present to this a couple of weeks ago. And so what I did is I actually sat down and I did a meditative act where I signed a peace treaty with myself. Like with all that I am, with my heart, mind, body, soul complex, just like everything, my reality bubble, my field, just everything that I am as the author, as the character, as God, as the son, as human, not human, all those pieces and parts. I came to this profound sense of peace and harmony with all of that. And in my mind's eye, I made it an imaginal act where I affixed my signature, right? Mind and speech, right? An act. This is a symbolic sacred act of signing a peace treaty within myself to memorialize this idea of being in peace and harmony within myself so that I can be part of the solution.
Yeah, I've always said that the only war is the war within.
Certainly. Yeah.
Um, you know, the people who are participating in this find themselves in a situation where if they knew, they could get out of immediately. The power of imagination, just as Neville did when he didn't want to participate in war and extracted himself from the situation using his imagination.
Yes.
It's the most powerful realization we can have, is the power of the imagination.
Yes.
But imagination is only one part of the story. It's only half of the story. So I want to make this clear. It's also subjective impressions and assumptions. So when we project out, we must bring that projection back into the body. That's part two of it. So we always use the words imagination creates reality, but it's imagination and assumption. So it's a loop. You're pushing something out into the quantum field, and then you're bringing it back into your body. If it doesn't come back into your body, the heart space, then you're not subjecting it. you're impressing that assumption into your body, because the body is the instrument that creates the aura and the magnetic field.
Yes.
To what you've magnetized towards your body is emanating from your heart, because your heart is the magnetic organ. So people think it's the brain. The brain is only a receiver.
Yes.
It sends and receives signals and decodes, but the heart is the electromagnetic organ that generates everything in our experience. It's actually the projector. And once we know that, that's why I say don't ever impress anything into your heart that you don't want to experience, because otherwise it will manifest. And the other thing is the gut is the intuitive GPS.
Yes.
So those the mind, the brain, the heart, and the gut.
Can you bring that together for us in an example? So the example of creating in imagination and then bringing back into the body through assumption, and then how the head, heart, gut. Yeah.
So when we project, for example, the night before SATs or the morning meditation, we are projecting, and then once the projection is out there, we just sit and wait for the signal to come back into the body, and we feel it. So one is a visualization. Let's say visualization projects, meditation, we receive the feeling.
Yes.
And then we get on with our day. So we've done the mind, we've done the heart, and then the day is creation, and that is, we want to receive the feelings through the gut and create with that. So that's intuition and inspiration. And if something feels right or wrong, we use that as our signal.
Yes.
But most of the work's done in that visualization and meditation phase. Then the rest of the day is important to be in receptive phase, which is living from sort of the gut. And that's why gut health is so important, because gut health is like a mini brain in a way, because it's like our guidance mechanism system. And heart health is also, as we know, it's the leading pillar of man, is heart disease. And that's because we're not using that organ for the right purposes. Mm-hmm. That's why self-love is the most important thing. So I feel like a lot of emphasis in personal development is on the brain. Yeah. And that's only a fraction. Yeah. That's only that's like 5, 10, maybe 10%. The rest is the heart and the gut. And I think once we shift the focus, and then we've got to unite all three, obviously. But once we shift the focus more on the heart and opening the heart chakra, then we're receptive. Because if people are not receptive to this information, it's often because their heart is closed.
Yes. Brilliant. Wow. I appreciate you illuminating and surfacing that for us. That's wonderful. I'm gonna take a look at the chat here and see what I need to catch up on here. Marcia says, that's not what I heard. I think you inadvertently answered my question, Joe. Thank you. So that's perfect. Good. Yeah, that's not what I heard. Yeah. Yep. I did that for movie tickets. I had date night and I was in charge of getting the movie tickets, and I went to the site and it said they were sold out. I was like, that's not what I heard. It was literally the last night that we could see that movie in the theater, and I was not about to just accept defeat. So I stopped. I put down the phone because it was like, error, sold out, whatever. I stopped and I put down the phone, and I was like, I reject that. And I saw in my mind's eye sitting in the theater with my lover watching this movie that we wanted to see. And I just like placed myself there, and I was like, waited. So that was the visualization. Then I waited until I felt it. That's the receiving coming back, right? And then once I was like, okay, I got it. Then I picked up the phone, refreshed everything, and it was like, here's your tickets. And I was like, perfect. Yes.
Go to the end. So you're sitting in the cinema. For me, it's sitting, watching the game with my friends. I always go to the end, and then that creates the memes. I don't know if you remember the story where, Abdullah was was getting into places that he shouldn't have got into in those days because he was of color. And then also when Neville's brother came from Barbados and they wanted to go to a theater and they didn't have tickets, and they managed to get tickets in the last minute. And all those stories are, we're replicating those stories.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's beautiful. Marcio says, our next group manifestation is that everyone has an open heart to receive this life-changing wisdom.
Absolutely. Well said.
Exactly. Well said. Yes. That's wonderful. Now here, Mike says, I came across a concept earlier today of combining a mental diet with an emotional diet.
Very good. Very good. Because emotions are energy emotion.
Energy emotion, precisely. Yes.
So the mental is the projection and the emotion is the reception.
Yes.
So you need both. You need both.
Yes.
And then we are electromagnetic. Electro is the thought.
Yes.
Magnetic is the reception and the magnetism. So those two, that's our whole construct is electromagnetism.
Yes.
Electromagnetic.
You referred to the heart earlier.
Howard,
yeah, go ahead.
You watch the Terrence Howard interview on Joe Rogan. He talks about electromagnetic as being the power. And there's no such thing as gravity, I think he said, something like that. It's all electromagnetic, which means it's changed the whole game. Yeah. It was one of the most powerful interviews I've ever heard, and it changes the whole game. Yes.
Yeah, very, very much paradigm shifting. That's falls under the idea of secrets revealed and revelation. We're living in a time of revelation where secrets are being revealed. That was a very prime example in a very public way of what was previously esoteric information being released very publicly. It's correct. Brilliant. Yeah.
And also when you know this information and you're watching anything, you can kind of get the backstory without knowing the whole thing, because everything sort of falls into place. Like you can correlate effect to cause and cause to effect. Once you can do that, the world's your oyster.
Yes. Do the correlation. Yeah.
I think it's the law of correspondence in the universal laws, and Hermetic principles is the law of correspondence. That's what they mean by that. As above, so below, as within, so without. As in imagination above, so below in reality. As within the subconscious, as without conscious. So that's the whole Hermetic cross.
Yes. Yes, beautiful. Let's see here. Two Tacos asks, have you used this power to manifest money that you needed? I think I'm interpreting that question properly. Yeah. Have you used it to manifest money that you needed?
That's what I'm up to right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Because I wanted to, I have, but not to the extent that I would like. Because I've realized that part of that manifestation is for me to do my purpose and my mission and my service, rather than just collect it out of a lottery winnings, which everyone would love. But deep down in my subconscious, maybe a lot of us that don't win the lottery is because maybe we're not meant to, or maybe there's no real fulfillment. We're not feeling it at that level.
Maybe it's not the love.
Yes, and there's no love energy there. So to answer that question, I have at times when I've needed to, in miraculous ways, but I want to that's the phase I'm in now, is to actually serve and be rewarded financially, because I've got the know-how and also the systems to do so. Because I really wanted to work out the mechanics behind all this before I put it to full use in the monetary sense. So to the question, I have, but not to the extent that I am doing now.
Certainly more coming. Okay, awesome. Yeah.
It's important that we all leverage the manifestation skills in our work so we can live the lifestyles that we want to live.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's crucial.
That's the whole point of work, and the whole point
It
of
is.
serving is to create the lifestyle we want to live.
Indeed, it is. Beautiful. I have posted a link to your link tree in the chat. So everybody's watching right now in the chat, there's a link tree which has all of Joe's links. It's also in the video description if you're watching the recording. You can catch him. He's got a couple books published now. How many books do you have out on Amazon right now?
I'm writing a third, which is going to be the culmination of the two, which is going to be all about the future reality.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can read it from the third one back to the first, or you can read it from the first to that way. So it goes both ways, because the third one is going to be about 5D reality.
Yep.
And then first one is about personal mission and purpose. And then the middle one is about how to apply these laws. So they all go hand in hand. So if we do the first two, we're going to end up with the third book, which is, the new world. And people can come in whichever phase they want to and correlate the three.
I see you also have a link to your X account or Twitter.
And yeah, I'm acting on that, which is a really good one, because that way you can see what I'm going to be starting Substack articles this week.
Great.
Which means be writing about my thoughts a couple of times a week at least. I've been writing on LinkedIn for a little while, but I want to move across to Substack because it's more I can capture a greater audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you're so on the link tree, so you've got 5DMIND, which is your company, and then you're also offering consultation. So if anybody in the chat would like to have a one-on-one with you, they can book through consultation.
Yeah, they can have a free consultation with me, and then we can work out where someone wants to head, and I can do a quantum blueprint, and they'll see results.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Yeah, absolutely.
I've used this on a number of people, and the results have been tremendous.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, so something like a quantum blueprint. So one, you're giving the person the tools, right, to do it for themselves, but then also they become part of your projection at that point. So you're actually projecting on their behalf as well as giving them the powers to be the author as well. So that's a powerful double thing happening there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're aware of that we do that for others. So
yes, we do.
They're getting a double projection. Now, if I'm doing a quantum blueprint, I'll work with the person to create their ideal, their quantum holographic projection. And then once we've worked on it together and agreed on it, then we have an agreement. So when any two agree, I've got this saying, when any two agree, it must come into being.
Yes. Yes.
So powerful exercise. And I've got a couple of quantum blueprints that are like well on their way, because a lot of the things that I've discussed with these two individuals, I mean, they've done half of it already. And and we're not talking small things here. We're talking huge things, business-wise and manifestation-wise.
Awesome.
Relationships and all sorts of things.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. So I encourage anyone in the chat to check that out, connect with Joe further. And I think at this point, any final thoughts you want to share, or words of encouragement? What do you got for us?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you and the work you do. Tremendous. Like, whenever anything comes out that you do, I'm always on it. I mean, the talk you did yesterday was, I think, Neville Mystery School number 7.
Yep.
That's got to be one of the most powerful things anyone could ever listen to. It is, I can't even describe it in words. It's everything. So for those that haven't seen that, go back and watch that, because it's life-changing. And I just encourage people to keep digging for the and manifest the life of your dreams, because it is possible. And there's many times where I wanted to give up on this journey, and I just want to say stick with it, because this is life. And you know what? As Neville said, we have no choice in the matter. You're going to win. And it may not be this lifetime, but you will win.
Yes.
There's no
already written. Yes, it is done.
You will be revealed as who you are eventually.
Yes.
And that's the promise.
That's the promise. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep going, persist, keep working, developing. That's what I've done my entire life.
Yes.
And I'll continue to do for the rest of my days. And yeah, and wonderful community, Josiah. I really love this community. I think you're doing wonderful work, and I hope to work with you closer in the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that, Joe. Yes. And to everyone in the chat, yes, a lovely, lovely community we have here. Thank you for all of you. Thank you to all of you. And I'm thankful for all of you. You guys are great. You're just the love and the reception that we have here in the chat. That's why I keep coming back on these Tuesday nights and having these Neville and chills with y'all. It's like an extended family. So I just, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. The chat is showing you some love, Joe. They're very appreciative. They love that you were with us tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And with that, yeah.
Yes, to everyone.
Salute, my friend, to all of your dreams coming true.
Yeah, and same likewise.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, that'll do it for tonight. That's Neville and Chill for now, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you all back here on Sunday for Sunday Mystery School number 8. Till then, imagine wisely, my friends, and I'll see you all again in the next